Good afternoon. Today is the 21st of September 2016. This is Pastor Barbara, aka Preacher with Parrots, and you don't see my face. You see part of a globe, part of a map, and a whole lot of a timeline. I decided this was the best way to give you an explanation on this timeline and then play it back for my class tonight and explain it to them. All right, what you have here, most of these pages will cover 450 years. This first one is covering only 350 years. Each one of these squares is 50 years. We start out with our timeline with Adam and Eve. I hope that I can take us this afternoon through post-flood, because from here I want to go to a map so that we can see where Noah and his three sons go and settle down, and where the world and how it becomes populated after the flood. But let's go back to the very beginning. We have approximately 4,000 years before Christ. So our numbers are going to get smaller from approximately 4,000 years before Christ to 3,900 years before Christ to 3,800 years before Christ, etc. This timeline takes us all the way up to 25 years ago. It has the first 2/3 of my lifetime on it. And as you can see, it begins with Adam and Eve. Here we have Adam and Eve, and they're going to live to be, well, we have only information about Adam, but he lives for 930 years. Adam and Eve have, coming from this line right here, Adam and Eve have two sons. They have Abel and they have Cain. We studied them about 2 weeks ago. Abel brings a satisfactory offering. Cain does not. God is not happy with Cain. And Cain kills Abel. So from the time that Adam sinned and Eve sinned, God has had a plan of salvation. That Savior cannot come from Abel because he's dead. It will not come from Cain, who is now known as a murderer. And so Adam and Eve have a third child. Well, actually more than that. He will live to be a total of 912 years. Now, one of the reasons that I wanted to bring this chart to you was because the length of time that people lived and the number of children that they produced in their lifetime was extremely different from what it is now. My grandmother had, and she's just 2 generations from me, my grandmother had 10 children. A few have had 18 or 20 children. Nowadays, many families begin when the mother is about 20, and she usually stops having children at about 40. My grandmother's time, her mother's time, they started a little earlier, maybe 16, maybe 15, 14 years old, but much different from what it was at this time. So now what we're doing is we're following Adam and Eve, and we're going to follow them clear over to here. We're going to take up in just a moment and can take them right a long way. But here is Seth. Now Cain, Enoch is born of Cain. Now this Enoch is second from Adam. There's another Enoch, spelled the same way, who is going to be seventh from Enoch. And in the New Testament, in the book of Jude, we get that information to help us know what when we're talking about. I read a lot of names, and I told you I was reading them on purpose because I wanted you to see how few there were in relationship to how many children were produced. So now we are coming over here 350 years since Adam and Eve, and I'm going to move this down here. I'm using my keyboard, piano keyboard, for this purpose. And we are now between 350 years into this timeline. Enos, Cain, these children are all produced till we get right here. This is the Enoch. He is born of Jared, who lives 962 years, only 5 years younger than the oldest man who ever lived. Imagine somebody that lived to be well over 900 years old, the number of children they would produce and would be produced in their lifetime. It is believed that more people perished in the flood than possibly exist at this time, but that's another story. We'll get into that later. This will take us up to the Enoch, whose father lived to be 962 years. Enoch walks with God and doesn't die. God takes him. But before that, Methuselah, who is going to live to be 969 years old, is still living. Here we have Adam is still alive. Seth, his offspring, is still alive. Adam is going to die at 930 years. Seth is going to die at 912. Enos is going to die at 905. Cainan is going to die at 910. Enoch is still alive. Methuselah is alive. Methuselah's name means, in the year I die, it will come to pass. He was given that name by his father Enoch, a prophet of God, a man who walked with God, and God took him. Now let me see if I can move this down a little bit here. And I'm going to have to I've got a cord or something here in my way that's giving me a hard time. Let me see what I can do about it. There we go. Whoa. Here we go. All right, let's take up where we left off before. This is Methuselah. This is Enoch. God took him when he was 365 years. He didn't die, but he left this earth at that time. This is Seth. This is a continuation of Methuselah. It ended here only because there was a need to take what was up here and put it down here. You can say, well, I don't understand that. Well, you would when you see all of those that are born here are going to have children and they're going to be up here. So there was a need to bring what was up here down here. So this line and this line is the same. This is Methuselah. Methuselah is still alive. Oh, but look what we have right here. Somebody's born right here. That's Noah. Noah is going to live 950 years. Going to live a long time because he's going to survive the flood. The rest of these people will not survive the flood. But Noah and his wife and his 3 sons and their wives will survive the flood. So here again, we have Methuselah. And here we have Noah has just been born. Now, let's see if I can manage to get into the next 450 years without knocking something off the table. Let's try something here. There we go. All right. Right up here, it gives us chronology of the flood. It tells us there are 2,369 years. About 2,400 years of history take place in the book of Genesis. (1,238) years take place in the rest of the Old Testament. Not quite, but close to twice as much happens just in the book of Genesis as in the 3,607 years of the entire Old Testament. Here we still have Methuselah. Here we have Lamech. And here we have Noah. Remember, Methuselah's name means, in the year I die, something will happen. Noah has been told by God to build an ark because sin has gotten to be so bad. God has to destroy the world and begin again. Now, he has 3 sons. This is Noah's line. He has Japheth and his wife, Shem and his wife, and Ham and his wife. Here's Lamech. He's still alive. And Methuselah is still alive. Noah is still alive, and he has 3 sons. This is the 40 days that it rained day and night. Now, I'm going to see if I can do this again without knocking something over. Okay. So here we are. This is Ham. This is Shem. I'm looking for Japheth's line, which is up here. And here we have Noah. At this time, people dwelt in tents. Now, I could very well end, and we could go on to tonight's lesson. But we are so close to some other things that I want to go forward to the next 3.5 or 350 years and bring us to right here. Because this brings us to a very important time. Oh, I missed something. I got to go back. We have just done Japheth, Shem, Ham, and this is Noah. And we come here, a man who is a descendant of Shem. See how this gets rather complicated right in here? But this is Shem. Now follow this. Follow this till we get to Nahor. Nahor has a son by the name of Terah. Terah has a rather interesting family. He has a son by the name of Haran. Now, you've heard of a place that's named after him. But Haran has some interesting children. One of Haran's also out of Terah, but born later. Haran is born first, and then Nahor is born. But Terah here has 2 interesting children. They're both his children. One is called Abram, whose name is later changed to Abraham. Terah also has a daughter by the name of Sarah, who marries Abram. They have different mothers, but they have the same father, Terah. Nahor gives birth to Bethuel, who gives birth to Rebekah, who marries Isaac. Now, Isaac has the same parentage as Abraham and Sarah right here. And when Isaac's father is looking for a wife, he goes among his own people. He's not going way up there. He's not going way down here. He's going among his own people. And Isaac and Rebekah become married. You will remember that Abraham had a nephew by the name of Lot. This Lot is a son of Haran. So we have some very close things, but there's something else I wanted to tell you before I get off of this thing. Remember I told you last week that I was going to tell you the story of the first Arab-Israeli war? Abraham had a son with his wife's Egyptian maid, and his name was Ishmael. Later, when Abraham's, I want to use the term Jewish, although it didn't exist at that time, Hebrew wife overcame her sterility and gave birth to Isaac. At the time Isaac was being weaned and they had a party for him, Ishmael, who's now 12, 13 years old, is making fun of him. And Mother Sarah says, no son of my Egyptian maid is going to make fun of my son. Now, we are so close, I've got to go over one more thing to show you something that's rather interesting, and then we'll close this portion of the video. Let's go to the next 350 years. Here we have Abram. We've gone about 100 years. And what do we find? We find a man by the name of Moses. Jethro becomes his father-in-law. Moses has a brother named Aaron, who becomes the first priest. He also has a sister by the name of Miriam. When we get to right here, we are about to begin the period of judges for about 400 years. And after that, we go into the period of kings. And after 3 kings, we go into the period of the divided kingdom. And then the restoration. But it's taken us far enough, I want you to see how long these people lived, how many children they bore in a short period of time. Now with this, I'm going to close this video. I'll play it this evening at the beginning of my class. And until the next video, blessings on you.